turned on. Hello. We are here in Abilene, Texas at the 12th Armored Division annual reunion here at the museum. We are here with Matilda Schumacher. She has some stories that she would like to express of her experiences of the war and also of her husband that was in the war. So we will go ahead and get started. Can you tell me, first off, when you were born, when you were born and where you were raised?
I was born March 2nd, 1921. I was born on a farm in Indiana.
And your parents were farmers, I take it?
Yes, for the first 16 years of my life, I lived on a farm, and then we moved into the town.
Okay. Where did you meet your husband?
Double dating.
Oh, let's go ahead and tell me his full name.
Owen Philip Schumacher.
Okay. And what was his rank? Do you know?
Sergeant when he was discharged.
Okay.
He worked in supply.
Was he your same age?
No, 4 years older.
Okay. So tell me about your dating.
Well, since I was in high school when we started dating, and of course he was out of high school, and we had he was dated another girl, and I was with another fella, and he decided to ask me to go out. That's how we started dating.
How long did you date?
Oh, 3 years before we were married.
So what do you remember about the Pearl Harbor bomb?
I remember it as if it were yesterday. We were visiting in an uncle's home, and the news came across the radio, no television then. Just as President Roosevelt said, never forget it. It changed my life entirely.
Did your husband ever tell his experience of when he first heard about it and his reaction?
We were married at the time.
Oh, okay, all right.
He was with me. He was in 1A. His status was 1A, and after Pearl Harbor, his status was 4F, and after Pearl Harbor, he was 1A. His eye had one bad eye. It's the reason he was in 4F. But after Pearl Harbor, that was a forgotten thing.
So he enlisted?
No, he was drafted.
Oh, okay. All right.
Drafted in 1942.
So did you two have any children before?
No.
Okay. Where was his first camp?
Camp Campbell, Kentucky.
And did he tell you any stories about Camp Campbell?
It was difficult because it was wide open territory there in a little town. Never had been, it was new. It was activated there. Mm-hmm. And that little town was just overrun with people. My first visit there, I stayed in what was supposed to be a hotel. The springs were coming out of the chairs and the bed, and...
So you didn't move with him?
No, not in Campbell. That's not too far from us. I live in southeastern Indiana, and I did take the train there. And crowded. Oh, there were, 3 people sat in the seats where there were to be 2, and they sat on suitcases and in the aisles, and that's the way it was all during the war.
Hmm. So when did he go? He went to Camp Barkley next, or did he go?
Yes, he did go to Camp Barkley, and I wish I had dates. I can't remember exactly.
Oh, that's fine.
I know they were in Camp Campbell all through the year of 42, the winter of 42, because it was very, very cold and his feet were froze. And in Barclay, then it was the hot weather. And apparently they were training this division, is the way I understand it, they were training this division so they could handle cold weather as well as hot weather. And of course they went to Europe and it was cold.
Did you move to Abilene with him, or?
I did live in Abilene one full summer, and that was before they shipped out in September, and I left the end of August then.
So then you moved back to Indiana then, or?
Yes, I lived near Peach Street, and this morning we were trying to find it, and I found it. And I stayed a week at the Wooten Hotel, and just before I came here, my daughter's with me, and we drove all around, and we found out that the Wooten Hotel is now an apartment building, and it's still there. So I have my picture in front of it.
That's great. So was he stationed at Camp Shanks?
Yes, that's where he shipped out.
Okay. Did he have any memories of that? Do you?
Well, they were at Camp Shanks. They were given a few hours, or maybe a day, I don't know how much time, I don't remember that they could go out and see New York City, which they did. He had never been to the city before.
So how was the trip on the ship over?
He had a strong stomach, and a lot of them didn't have. He said he never got sick, but everybody around him seemed to be. That was his history of going over. They were not attacked or anything. They sailed to England. He was stationed in Tidworth, Tidworth. And there they were given some time that he visited London while he was there. And then he and trying to think of his first name, Sundberg was his name. They were in charge of the supply of their outfit. And this man, Sundberg, was sent ahead of him. This is how things happened during the war. He became a father, and his wife and I were good friends. We had met here in Abilene, and we continued to be friends all our lives. But anyway, her sister called and said that the baby was born. He had a daughter. Well, Red Cross sent out all the news, like that. But I got the information, hours after it happened, and I immediately mailed my husband. So when then my husband was still in England, and when he got off the ship, Sundberg was there to meet him, and he called him father, and he still hadn't heard from it. So they always told about, the Red Cross did it all, but he did it.
So tell me about any experiences he expressed to you about combat.
Not very much. He did say they were out in the open for so long, and just lived in the cold. And when they got R&R and had gone back and were in rooms, they all got colds. When they were out in the open, they didn't have colds. Now that's what he talked about. He didn't tell about the hardships, and I know he had them. He did. I think he was in some of the camps where they found the Jews that were mistreated. It was awful. And I have been to Dachau myself. I've been back to Germany 5 times.
Did he give you, I suspect he probably didn't tell you much about his experience at Herlesheim?
He always said he will never forget Herlesheim. It was the worst. Didn't give me any detail.
So who were his buddies?
Well, his closest friends were Sundberg, Paul Johnson, Walter Lisco, and through the years, there are numerous ones that we've become very close with at reunions. But those were three of his real close friends.
So did he have to serve in occupation?
Yes. He did not have enough points to come home. A lot of the men had children or whatever it took to have points to come home. And he did stay. I can't remember how many months. Let's see. The war was over in May, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And he didn't get home till February. He worked in the post office during that time.
You did?
He did.
Oh, he did.
During that time of occupation, he was in the postal service of the division.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about your experience when he was at war.
As I said, I didn't go to Camp Campbell, and I moved home. We had an apartment, and I had to move home, stay with my parents, and I worked in a drugstore that had, now our town was about 3,000 people at that time, and we had a telegraph service, the telegrapher, and teletype came out at that time, and so another girl and I were in charge of the Western Union Telegraph. We had to be there every day, and closed at 9:30, and holidays, Sundays and holidays, we had to go in for a couple hours to get the messages. And at that time, it's hard for you to realize how important Western Union was, and that was the way of communication. As a message would come across, I knew it was from the military. There would be missing in action, killed in action, missing in action, prisoner of war, and killed in action. And many of these people I knew. And I'd like to correct something I heard on television not very long ago. They said when a killed in action came in, that there were always two people. There was a priest or a clergyman called. It's not true. I delivered him myself. And I can name some of the people who because I knew everybody in our town. And we were centrally located in these little villages around. We had people stationed in each one of these little towns, and then we would call them and give them the message, and then they related it to the person. Now, on occasions, we did get some help. Sometimes I can remember the utility man that was in charge of wiring would go out and deliver messages, but I walked them. I can remember one I delivered we had factories there, and I knew the father worked in the factory, so I went over there, and the office called him in, and I had to give him the message. And I gave him one time. I took one to a couple, and I had to give the message to. I had called whether there were two. That was one thing. We had to be sure there were two people in the house, and the husband and wife were there, and it was hard. then all the other things during, well, I don't know what you're interested in, what we did. Women, I mean, we did about everything, you know. Rationing of gas was, that job, though, did give me a B. I don't remember how that was worked. It's A, B, and C, D rationing on gas, I think it was. And I got a B card because I had to drive at night. I could walk in the daytime, but I could, the excuse was that I had to have the car at night, so I got a little extra gas.
So what was the rationing like?
Oh, it was nothing to what our husbands were doing, but we were without our, well, nylon hose wasn't even invented, but we didn't have silk hose. And women that came out with paint to paint your legs, and now they tell me that's coming back after all these years. And sugar, meat, coffee. Oh my, to have coffee. You know, that was real. It was hard to get coffee. You just got stamps for so much, and you could ration yourself how you wanted to use it. There were a lot of things that were rationed, but those were the main things.
For who? Stop it.
Okay. We had a little mic problem. So there was just a lot of rationing that
Yes.
you experienced.
For instance, I had a sister that was put on a special diet, and she was supposed to have bacon. We had a doctor's order that they had to serve us bacon for her. Wasn't that much, but it was more than what we were gotten otherwise. Tires on cars, you couldn't get a new tire. When my husband came home from the service, he thought that old car was, and he was gone for over 3 years. And I had a 37 Chiv, and he thought it was still like it was when he left. It went bad in no time, so much so that then we couldn't get a car. And they pulled the car out of our driveway with a wrecker because it just wouldn't run anymore.
So did you meet him, when did you find out he was coming back?
Well, he was at Le Havre for some time before he came home, so he had written that it wouldn't be too long until he would leave. By being there after the war, then our mail came through. But before, I did send a lot of emails because working with Western Union, he told me an approximate time, and then when he landed, he said, you know, the whole shipload gets off and they had to get in line to call home. And they did get the call that they were in the country home. And then he was sent to a nearby camp. And I met him in a nearby town. We stayed in Shelbyville, Indiana, and didn't go home till the next day then. Quite a reunion. That was a prayer answered.
So did he go to college?
After the war, with the GI Bill, yes. He went to UC at Cincinnati. He got an associate degree in, and he did, he worked in an office at Batesville, Union Furniture Company.
Did you go to school?
No. I only graduated from high school.
So, I assume you had children?
Yes, we have two.
Tell me about them.
We had two, son and a daughter. My daughter's with me. It's the first time she's been in Abilene. And she works for IBM in Fishkill, New York. And my son is accountant, and he works at Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati. Drives to the city every day. We're about 45-minute drive from Cincinnati. We're in Indiana, but we're close to the state line.
Well, I don't have any other questions. Would you like, is there anything else that you would like to document?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Those were great stories. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.